We're here at Lyon Air Museum here at John Wayne Airport. We're on the airport, not near the airport. A lot of people get confused about that. On the west side, and museum here founded by General William Lyon back in 2009, so we're in our 10th year. And he founded the museum basically because he wanted to educate school children about the greatest generation, and particularly the guys who flew, fought, maintained these aircraft during World War II. We start really with the artifacts in here pre-World War II. We have the late 1930s American Airlines aircraft representation here, and that is prior to the buildup of World War II. And then we go into some of the famous aircraft of World War II, like the B-17 Flying Fortress that's behind me, B-25 Mitchell bomber, C-47. We've got the Dakota over there, which was a paratrooper airplane. We've got a training aircraft, advanced trainer, a T-6 Texan, and A-26, and a few other aircraft that kind of round the collection. General Lyon, back during World War II, wanted to do his part, and he wanted to fly aircraft, and he got himself involved in flight training. He was a flight instructor during the latter part of the war, and then he went on at the end of the war to deliver aircraft all over the world. So he was ferrying airplanes all around the world. And then post World War II, got into the Air Force Reserve and flew in the Korean Air War, and then ultimately became Chief of the Air Force Reserve from 1975 to 1979. During that time, obviously, he had a great passion for aviation, and so the idea of bringing the museum to Orange County was, having a venue where particularly the young people could come in and learn about what these guys did, the greatest generation, those who kind of came of age and were involved in the greatest defining event of the 20th century, World War II.
From 10:30 on, the Anklam formation has to contend with constant German fighter attack from all levels and all clock positions. During this time, the gunners aboard the fortresses knock down fighter after fighter. However, the gunnery of the forts, no matter how sensational it may be, is only to ensure the successful performance of the mission. It is not the job or purpose of forts or liberators to seek out action with enemy fighters. They merely defend themselves against enemy fighter attack so that they can destroy their target and bring their crews back safely to their home bases.
I was a tail gunner on a B-17, very similar to this, and I was involved. I flew out of England, and our targets were usually in Germany. And I flew 16 complete missions, and on my 17th mission, I was involved in a mid-air collision up 5 miles in the air, about 50 degrees below zero and 5 miles in the air. I'm the lone survivor. Everybody, all my buddies were killed in the crash. It crashed and burnt in an immediate area. It happened at 25 and at 10,000 feet. I started worrying about what the reception would be like on the ground because I knew we were over Germany. And by golly, I started preparing for that. And sure enough, as I hit the ground, I saw some people coming towards me, and so I started running the other direction, and they started shooting at me. I ended up putting my hands in the air and walking towards them. The day I was captured, it would have to be the most terrifying because, I didn't know. I was a young guy and I didn't know how long, I'd be living.
20 dispatched, 19 returned. 20 dispatched, 14 returned. 19 dispatched, 18 returned.
When people come into Lyon Air Museum, it's not just about the visitors, but it's about the docents, our volunteers as well. We have a lot of these guys, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam era guys, and it helps for them to have some place to go and to maybe share their stories with fellow people who were in these conflicts, and then be able to share the stories with the public. So it's kind of a two-way thing. And I'll tell you, when some of our visitors come in and they can sit down with a World War II B-17 pilot or air crew member and hear their stories one-on-one, what a great experience.
This B-17 wasn't built for comfort. It was built to carry bombs to the enemy, So the comfort of the crewmen, none of them had a comfortable position, They were all very tight. Especially the ball turret on the bottom. He was really tight, but the tail was tight also. But you never thought about things like that. We sat on a little bicycle seat, and some of those missions was 10 hours, 12 hours long. It was very antique compared to today's aircraft, But these are all air-cooled engines,
People often ask me what my personal favorite thing is about Lyon Air Museum, and I would say the volunteers. So we have about 75 volunteer docents on our staff. At any given time, we might have half a dozen of them here at the museum. Probably a day doesn't go by that I come down here onto the floor and learn something new from one of our volunteers. So I'd say that's my favorite thing.
Men, the going's going to be rough. You're going to have to bow your necks in there and stay in there and pitch every minute.
I enlisted in the Air Force or the Army in 1943. As soon as I graduated from high school, went into the service. Trained on B-17s and B-24s as aerial gunner. The tail gunner always seemed to get the first attacks. And our gunnery system was a good system when it was built for World War II aircraft, but it just couldn't track fast enough to keep up with the jets. So I just devised my own method of firing. I disregarded the gunnery system, and when I saw the cannons go off, because they had a longer range, then I'd just start firing and hope they ran into it, because you didn't have time for skill. We spotted them coming in, so we fired on them as well as them firing on us, but our plane keeled over out of formation, and the alarm bell went off, and pretty soon I see parachutes opening out there, and by then we were alone, so I bailed. It was all downhill from there. They're coming in about 500 miles an hour, so, so it's a little bit of different. We're plugging along about 190. It's one of life's experiences, and glad it's over. No complaints. I volunteered, so.
And so it goes. The 4,000 men who will go on this mission all know it will be a rugged deal. For some of them, it's their first mission. Others are veterans of many.
When visitors come in here, they'll see, sometimes oil pans under the airplanes, and that's really an indication that the airplanes are flyable. And it's because the airplanes here, right now we have 9 airplanes in the museum. All 9 of them are flyable airplanes. They don't always fly regularly. We have certain planes that are featured for that particular year. Probably our most popular lately is our C-47, which is our World War II troop carrier airplane. It flies in the annual Huntington Beach Air Show. It flies at another air show that's out at Chino every year, so we get some pretty good visibility out there. We here have at the museum a hands-on area, particularly for the younger people. They can come in and they can climb in some military vehicles, a Jeep and a big command truck. And so there's a lot in that sense for them to do. And then they also, probably one of the favorite things they do here is just standing at our big windows. The neat thing about this museum is we have the big glass doors that overlook the runways here at John Wayne Airport, so that the kids will come and stand and just watch all the activity taking place on the airport. So unrelated to maybe the World War II history, but still an activity that they love to do here. Some of our key annual events we do here in May around Mother's Day weekend, we have a visiting group called the Collins Foundation, and they bring about 4 to 5 aircraft and they do rides for about 5 days all through Lyon Air Museum here. That's probably one of our most active weeks of the year. We also do an event which is Bikes and Bombers in August, and we have a lot of motorcycles that will come in here. We have about 300 motorcycles in our parking lot for the day. And that's just another way to get people involved in what we do here. There's a big crossover. People who are interested in aviation history or airplanes in general often like cars and motorcycles and other things, right? Mechanical things. And that's why we have the cars here, because the cars tell a lot of the story of the greatest generation as well. So another event we do during the summer, July and August, is a featured car exhibit. And we'll have somewhere between 6 and 10 cars on display that are crazy special, and we've had some really interesting cars, so it's another great event that we do. Other events we do is the open cockpit days, where we'll pick a particular airplane like a B-25 Mitchell and we'll open it up and we'll have docents typically who are well versed in the flying of the aircraft, and then we'll let people climb up and see what it looks like inside and kind of get a feel for what these crew members did. If you haven't been out to Lyon Air Museum and you have access to the area, if you live anywhere in this area within a nice drive, a day drive, it's worth a trip out here. You're going to see some stuff that you won't see anywhere else. Pop in and you're going to learn a lot.